A black woman walks into a high-end boxing gym in downtown Atlanta, and her presence immediately sparks open contempt from the reigning world champion. The champion mocks her background, her skin color, and her worth. She corners the black woman into a challenge designed to humiliate her in front of everyone. Minutes later, a flurry of punches from the black woman rains down, and the champion's arrogant confidence begins to crack. What no one in that gym realizes is that they're about to witness the downfall of a world champion at the hands of the very woman they all look down on. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from, and subscribe because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. An imperious female fighter had cornered a young black woman in the ring, intending to mortify her, but then the unexpected unfolded. Just look at this. Serafina Thorne scoffed, gesturing at the young woman who had just entered the luxurious Atlanta Combat Club. Seems someone strayed far from the projects. The sharp thud of powerful blows against the training bags abruptly ceased. Every gaze swiveled to Maya Jenkins, who clutched a threadbare backpack and wore sneakers so frayed they seemed on the verge of disintegrating. Her deep brown skin created a striking contrast against the gym's polished white walls, where the monthly fees eclipsed 6 months of a minimum wage salary. Serafina Thorne, the reigning 3-time women's world boxing champion, was famed not just for her devastating knockout punches, but also for her cutting, provocative remarks. At 28, Serafina had cultivated her career through incessant social media challenges and controversy-fueling comments that amassed millions of views. Her latest online post had surpassed 1 million likes. A photograph of her flexing biceps captioned, "When you're inherently superior, you never need to feign equality. Forgive me," Maya quietly stated, her eyes dropping to the cracked screen of her phone. "I believed this was a scholarship initiative for teenagers." Serafina's laughter reverberated through the gym, sharp and jarring like an alarm. "A scholarship," Serafina scoffed. "Sweetheart, this isn't a social service. We cultivate elite athletes here, not conduct charitable experiments." Maya felt scores of eyes on her. Some sympathetic, some intrigued, some overtly contemptuous. She tightened her hold on her bag, steadying her breath, refusing to allow the insult to rattle her. "That scholarship program is indeed legitimate," a calm, resonant voice declared from the office. Coach Marcus, the gym's proprietor and a seasoned boxing mentor known for his impartiality, stepped forward, a stack of documents in hand. His gaze was stern as it landed on Serafina. "And this young woman, Maya Jenkins, is on the approved roster." Serafina rolled her eyes in irritation, her expression freezing. "Seriously, Marcus," Serafina retorted, "are you turning this establishment into a charity facility? My sponsors certainly won't be pleased." Coach Marcus's response was firm and unyielding. "Sponsors compensate for outcomes, not for you to dictate who trains here." Undeterred, Serafina closed the distance to Maya, her eyes glittering like a predator stalking its prey. "Well, if she's so desperate to be here, why don't we have a little match? A friendly bout between you and me. Let's see if you truly merit that scholarship." A deathly silence fell over the gym. Everyone knew this was no casual sparring session. It was a public degradation, a snare Serafina had laid to demonstrate that a low-income girl like Maya had no place in her domain. Coach Marcus turned to Maya, concern etched on his face. "Maya, you don't have to do this. You can walk away." But Maya lifted her chin, her gaze unwavering, her voice calm and clear. "It's all right. I accept." Serafina's lips curved into a cold smile, convinced she had triumphed. She failed to notice the inferno blazing in Maya's eyes. No fear, no hesitation, only fierce resolve and unyielding strength. Tension crackled through the gym as whispers spread like a growing tide. Yet Maya stood her ground, staring directly at Serafina Thorne, unflinching. In her eyes burned a power and resilience so intense that even Serafina instinctively recoiled for a moment. Serafina quickly recomposed herself. Her striking blue eyes gleamed with defiance and scorn. She stepped right up to Maya, close enough for their breaths to mingle, and spoke with contempt dripping from every syllable. "I must concede you're bold, Maya, or perhaps utterly foolish. Do you genuinely believe that kind of reckless bravery will help you endure a fight with me?" Maya remained silent, her gaze unwavering. That only exasperated Serafina further. She was accustomed to opponents trembling or lashing out in response to her provocations. But Maya was different. That only intensified Serafina's desire to expose her fragility and perceived inferiority before everyone. Serafina turned toward the growing crowd, raising her voice in derision. "Listen up, everyone. Today we're in for quite a spectacle," Serafina announced. "A match between me, the world champion, and this obscure girl who emerged from nowhere. I'm sure you're all eager to see if someone like her can even survive a single round." Scattered chuckles rippled through the gym. A few faces showed discomfort, but no one dared to speak up. Serafina reveled in every second of her command. To her, this was more than just a boxing match. It was an opportunity to assert her supremacy, to remind everyone that she belonged in this elite realm. And Maya did not. Serafina pressed on her tone, growing colder, her insults more cutting. "Let's be honest, Maya. I'm accustomed to facing the world's top fighters, individuals who know who they are, where they belong. You, on the other hand, you hail from some grimy alley, right?" Serafina pressed. "I'll bet your bouts occur in dark, squalid corners. You probably can't even afford a decent pair of gloves." Maya clenched her fists, her eyes burning with fury, but she refused to show any sign of weakness. At that moment, Coach Marcus, the gym owner, recognized that things were spiraling out of control. A veteran coach with over 40 years of experience, he knew Serafina was deliberately employing psychological warfare to unnerve Maya before the match. Coach Marcus stepped forward and gently placed a hand on Maya's shoulder, speaking in a low, steady voice. "Maya, you don't have to go through with this. I know Serafina. She won't relent until she's satisfied. Don't let her mind games get to you." Maya met Coach Marcus's eyes. Her expression softened slightly, but her resolve remained unyielding. "I appreciate that, Coach, but if I retreat now, I'll be conceding that everything she asserted is true. I cannot do that." Coach Marcus sighed, torn between admiration for Maya's bravery and apprehension for her safety. Serafina was no ordinary adversary. Alongside her world-class technique, she wielded cruelty as a weapon. Serafina stepped even closer, her mocking smile undimmed. She no longer bothered to conceal her prejudice. "Oh, right, I nearly forgot the most crucial detail. Not only are you impoverished, you're also a black woman, aren't you? Do you honestly believe you can stride in here, stand among people like us, and prove you're our equal?" An unsettling hush fell over the gym. A few onlookers shook their heads in disapproval. Serafina had undeniably gone too far. But Maya remained resolute, her gaze growing even colder and more determined. She looked Serafina straight in the eye, each word cutting through the tension like a blade. "You use words like that to belittle me, to make me afraid, don't you, Serafina? But you should understand this. Your insults do not define who I am, and they certainly will not make me retreat. I will fight you not to prove anything to you, but to prove to myself that I am not what you perceive me to be." The entire room fell silent. People instinctively stepped back, creating a widening space between Maya and Serafina. Coach Marcus looked at Maya with both pride and concern. He understood that this bout had transcended mere boxing. It was a collision between dignity and arrogance, between human worth and societal prejudice. Serafina laughed loudly, shattering the tense stillness. She nodded to her trainer to prepare everything, then turned back to Maya with a dangerous undertone. "Very well, Maya. Remember what you proclaimed. In just a few minutes, I'll make you regret daring to challenge me in front of everyone here, and I'll show you precisely where you belong." Maya did not reply. She simply turned and walked toward her corner of the ring. She knew exactly what lay before her. What Serafina failed to comprehend was that within, Maya blazed a fire of pride and resilience, a power no insult could ever extinguish. And in this fight, Maya would prove that the woman Serafina scorned was the most formidable opponent she'd ever encountered. As Maya made her way to the corner of the gym, where she would prepare for the imminent fight, Serafina's mocking insults still echoed in her mind, like sharp blades carving into the past she'd spent her life trying to forget. She sat on the small stool and quietly slipped the beaten backpack off her shoulder. Her eyes settled on her old boxing gloves, their leather frayed and split in places, and memories surged back like a crashing wave. Maya was born and raised in one of Southside Atlanta's most impoverished neighborhoods, where narrow streets overflowed with refuse police sirens pierced the night, and fear lingered in every glance. Her father abandoned them when she was just 6, leaving her mother, Elara Jenkins, to bear the burden of their lives alone, raising Maya amidst poverty, violence, and constant peril. Every day, Elara toiled from dawn till dusk in a dilapidated textile factory near their home. She returned with calloused hands and weary eyes, but never allowed her tears to fall in front of her daughter. Maya understood the cost her mother paid, and from a tender age, she learned to steel herself to protect both of them. When Maya was 11, she first delivered a punch in self-defense. One afternoon after school, a group of older children cornered her, taunting her ragged clothing and her family's struggles. Fear and helplessness welled inside her, and in that moment she chose to retaliate. Her initial blows were clumsy, but instinct sharpened them into powerful strikes as she fought with everything she possessed to survive. Street confrontations became more frequent until Maya recognized that, in this world, vulnerability meant danger. She began training every day, transforming her dusty backyard into her personal arena. She hung old, worn, heavy bags and relentlessly drilled them until her knuckles bled. Before long, she was no longer just a terrified little girl defending herself. She had evolved into a warrior, her speed and strength earning the respect of everyone in the neighborhood. Locals started calling her Spark, both for the rapidity of her strikes and the fierce resolve blazing in her eyes whenever she entered a fight. Those brutal street brawls forged her into a local legend, an opponent no one dared to underestimate regardless of size or strength. Yet deep down, Maya never desired a life defined by violence. She recalled one harsh winter night after a particularly bloody skirmish, returning home to find her mother sitting alone in their tiny kitchen, tears staining her gaunt face. "Sweetheart," Ilara's voice trembled, filled with pain. "I don't want you living like this. I don't want your fist to be all you possess. Life's already hard enough. I can't lose you to these pointless battles." Her mother's words cut into Maya's heart and kept her awake for nights afterward. She knew Ilara was right. She didn't want to spend her life fighting just to survive day after day with nothing but her fists and her wounds. She craved more. She longed for a peaceful existence where no one had to fight to stay alive, and where she could construct her future through honest effort and perseverance rather than violence. From that moment, Maya vowed to leave the street fights behind. She dedicated herself to her studies and took odd jobs to assist her mother. She graduated high school with distinction and secured a modest scholarship to a local college, her chance to reshape her life, to prove she could stand independently without trading blows. When she moved to New York pursuing improved opportunities, she promised herself she would never revert to the life she'd known. She was determined to demonstrate that she could live differently, the life her mother had envisioned for her, a quiet, dignified life of her own creation. But today, in this opulent gym confronting Serafina Thorne's cutting, hateful words, Maya realized there was no turning back. If she yielded now, all the sacrifices she and her mother had made to escape the darkness would be in vain. She fought not only for herself, but for her mother, for everyone who had endured similar suffering, and for the dignity she refused to surrender. Maya exhaled slowly and opened her eyes, now burning with resolve. Serafina had made a profound error underestimating her. Everything Maya had endured wasn't a vulnerability. It was the wellspring of her greatest strength. And in this fight, she would demonstrate to Serafina that one pays a hefty price for underestimating a heart that has withstood far too much. As Maya stepped onto the training floor, the recent memories still lingered in her mind like indelible fragments. Her eyes now shone with more resolve than ever before. She knew precisely what lay ahead, and she was determined not to let anyone, especially Serafina Thorne, underestimate or harm her again. Not far away, Serafina lounged on a plush velvet bench, scrolling through her extravagant phone. She was utterly amused, posting snarky clips and derisive commentary about Maya on social media. Each of Serafina's sarcastic updates dripped with contempt and overt prejudice, igniting the online community with shares and comments. One of Serafina's latest posts declared, "Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for the most extraordinary match of my career. Me, the world champion, versus an unknown woman from Southside Atlanta's grittiest neighborhood. This isn't truly a fight. It's a demonstration to highlight the chasm between class and feebleness. Want to witness this amusing spectacle? Come down to the gym and experience it live." Those cutting words pierced Maya's pride like arrows, but she refused to allow the malicious taunts to divert her. She focused entirely on her training. Walking over to the heavy bag, she inhaled deeply and unleashed a first punch with such speed and force that the bag swayed violently. Each subsequent strike was delivered with astonishing precision and relentless consistency. Across the gym, Coach Marcus watched with astonishment and curiosity. He'd coached countless fighters from promising newcomers to world champions, but he'd seldom seen someone with Maya's unassuming appearance throw such flawless punches. Every jab and hook was meticulously calculated for optimal speed and power. Each foot placement and body movement radiated undeniable professionalism. These were not skills an amateur could possess. Coach Marcus immediately realized he had misjudged Maya from the outset. She was clearly no ordinary woman, and certainly not the amateur Serafina assumed her to be. Stepping closer, Coach Marcus observed her for a few more moments before gently inquiring, "Maya, I'm genuinely intrigued. Who trained you, your technique? I must admit, few individuals can execute it so naturally." Maya paused, but showed no sign of exhaustion. She met Coach Marcus's gaze with sincere, cautious eyes, then replied softly, "Life has been my most profound instructor, Coach. I learned to fight to survive. I mastered evasions and strikes, not in a cutting-edge gym like this, but on the streets where I grew up." Coach Marcus nodded empathetically. He grasped the raw truth in her words, the strength born of harsh experience. But he also sensed she was holding something back, perhaps the full extent of the extraordinary skills she possessed. Still, he continued gently, "Are you absolutely certain about this fight? I don't doubt your capability, but Serafina is a world champion. She's not merely an arrogant show-off. She's dangerous. She knows how to exploit her ego to break opponents physically and mentally." Maya wiped the sweat from her brow and looked Coach Marcus directly in the eye, her resolve unwavering. "I understand, Coach, but she crossed the line when she used my skin color, my background, and my circumstances to ridicule me. She's insulting everyone who's ever come from where I did. I won't permit her to do that. This isn't a fight to prove anything to the world. It's a fight to defend my own dignity." Coach Marcus realized he couldn't sway her. He patted her shoulder, his eyes now filled with deep respect. "I understand, Maya. I've got your back. And remember, regardless of the outcome, you're already a winner in my eyes." In the far corner of the gym, Serafina continued filming her smug laughter, escalating as her follower count and engagement surged online. She'd transformed this fight into a major media event, portraying Maya as an unwilling victim, a pathetic jest in the eyes of the internet. But Serafina failed to recognize her critical blunder. By underestimating Maya, she was making a grave mistake. She was so consumed by her own arrogance that she neglected to perceive the woman she tried to humiliate was the most formidable opponent she'd ever faced. Maya drew in a deep breath and resumed her rapid, powerful, precisely aimed strikes on the heavy bag. Her movements were no longer merely training. They were a bold declaration against Serafina's contempt, and she knew that soon the entire world would learn she was no one Serafina Thorne could humiliate so easily. The steady thud of fists echoed from Maya's corner of the gym, forming a solid rhythm that spoke of her complete focus. Coach Marcus stood silently still, pondering the true source of those precise, razor-sharp movements. Just as he drifted into thought, a warm, deep voice sounded behind him, making him start and turn around. "She's never changed, still Spark, just like always." Coach Marcus looked in surprise at the man who had appeared beside him. Middle-aged, with a square jaw and seasoned stern eyes, he wore simple clothes that stood in stark contrast to the upscale gym-goers. Coach Marcus frowned, about to ask a question, when the man spoke first. "I'm Uncle Ben Maya's uncle. I flew in from Atlanta as soon as I heard. I thought you, Coach Marcus, should know more about my niece." Coach Marcus nodded and listened intently. Uncle Ben's gaze softened as he watched Maya, training pride and concern mingling in his eyes. "Ever since she was a little girl, Maya had to learn to fight to survive. But you know what's more frightening than her skill? Why she had to become so strong." Coach Marcus waited for more. Uncle Ben inhaled deeply, eyes distant in memory. "Our neighborhood in Southside Atlanta wasn't safe. Kids there had to fend for themselves against the brutal world around them. Maya was no exception. Her father left when she was very young, and her mother worked herself nearly to exhaustion to keep them afloat. Maya had to learn to protect herself and her mom." He paused, voice heavy with unspoken pain. "When she was 13, everyone called her Spark. Not just because her strikes were fast as lightning, but because of her iron resolve and pain tolerance. Whenever bigger bullies picked on her, they quickly realized they'd made a grave mistake." Coach Marcus shivered at his words, then looked back at Maya with newfound admiration and curiosity. But that life left deep wounds no one sees. Uncle Ben continued, worry threading his tone. She blamed herself every time her mother had to witness those bloody fights. Maya swore she'd leave that violence behind, that neither of them would ever endure that pain again. After a long silence, Coach Marcus spoke. If that's true, why agree to this match? Maya knows Serafina Thorne won't show mercy. This will be brutal. Uncle Ben met Coach Marcus's eyes, his gaze razor sharp, because Serafina attacked Maya's deepest wound, her pride and dignity. Maya can't stand by while someone publicly insults her skin, her background, her past. I know my niece. She doesn't fight to prove she's stronger than anyone. She fights to protect the respect she deserves. Coach Marcus exhaled slowly. In his career, he'd witnessed emotional battles, but never such fierce, profound determination in someone like Maya. Do you think she can beat Serafina? Coach Marcus asked sincerely. Uncle Ben smiled confidently. I've seen Maya take down one opponent after another. Bigger, stronger foes even as a kid. She not only has the skill to beat Serafina, but the strength to make her pay for her arrogance. My only worry is the mental scars this fight might reopen. It took Maya years to heal those wounds. I don't want them haunting her again. Coach Marcus nodded, understanding. He knew Maya faced not just a physical fight, but an inner battle between past and present, between pride and pain. Uncle Ben placed a hand on Coach Marcus's shoulder, his eyes sincere. I hope you'll support my niece not only tonight, but anytime she needs someone to believe in her. Even the strongest need a foundation when facing life's biggest challenges. Coach Marcus met Uncle Ben's gaze with resolve. Mr. Ben, I promise I'll stand by Maya. I'll do everything I can to support and protect her, and no matter the outcome, she's already shown that true strength comes from dignity and courage. They both turned to watch Maya. She was still training. Each punch not only powerful and precise, but driven by unwavering resolve. They knew this coming fight would be more than two fighters clashing. It would be a battle to uphold a person's true worth, something Maya would never surrender, no matter the cost. The street lamp's hazy glow filtered through the window of the cramped room, where Maya sat casting long shadows on the walls that mirrored the turmoil in her heart. For nights on end, sleep had become a luxury beyond her reach. Serafina's taunts and cruel insults echoed in her mind, like relentless waves battering against the sturdiest cliff. Maya perched on the edge of her bed, eyes fixed on the window. She had once vowed never to step back into the ring, never to let her fists be instruments of violence again. But now, that promise felt more fragile than ever, and deep inside she wondered whether her decision had been the right one. A soft knock at the door pulled her back to the present. She rose and opened it to find her Uncle Ben standing there, concern and affection in his eyes. "Still awake, Maya?" he asked gently. She shook her head, avoiding his gaze. Uncle Ben sighed, stepped inside, and sat beside her, speaking with warm understanding. "I know how you're feeling," he said, "but sometimes we can't cling to old promises. When circumstances demand, we stand up for our own dignity." Maya turned to him, exhaustion and conflict in her eyes. "But Uncle," she whispered, "I promised Mom and myself that I'd never use my fists again. I don't want to go back to that life, or risk losing everything I've worked for." Uncle Ben laid a comforting hand on her shoulder, sincerity shining in his gaze. "I understand, Maya, but this fight didn't come looking for you. You were forced into it to defend your honor. Serafina insulted everything you've built. If you stay silent, she'll never stop. She won't just attack you, but anyone she deems weaker." Maya bowed her head, her eyes warming at his words. Inside, her fear of returning to past violence clashed with her need to protect her self-worth, tearing her apart. At that moment, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. "Coach Marcus." She answered quickly, and Coach Marcus's concerned voice came through. "Maya, are you okay? I know you're under tremendous pressure, but both your uncle and I believe in your decision, and in you. Serafina is leveraging social media to corner you, but I'm convinced you'll show that her contempt is her greatest mistake." Maya inhaled deeply, her voice firmer and steadier than before. "Thank you, Coach. I won't let you down." The next day, the gym buzzed with tense anticipation. All eyes fell on Maya as she entered. Serafina stood in the center, a smug challenge in her gaze, and a self-satisfied smile playing on her lips. Serafina strode up to Maya, every step radiating arrogance. She stopped and fixed Maya with a cold, disdainful stare, making sure everyone could hear. I must say, I'm surprised you had the nerve to show up today, Maya, she sneered. With your humble background and unknown track record, I thought you'd have fled long before now. Maya forced herself to stay calm, breath quickening at Seraphina's brazen insults. She clenched her fists, suppressing the fury rising in her chest. Determined not to give Seraphina the satisfaction of seeing her falter, Seraphina pressed on her tone as sharp as a blade, each word dripping with provocation. So, I hear your old nickname was Spark, right? How amusing. An obscure flash from the gritty streets of Southside Atlanta daring to challenge someone like me. Do you genuinely believe your petty street fighting skills can harm me? Maya ground her teeth, her eyes cold and furious, but she refused to let Seraphina see her lose control. Instead, she replied calmly and with resolve, Seraphina, you're correct about one thing. I did learn to fight on streets you've never dared to traverse. And because of that, I understand the true value of pride and dignity. This fight isn't about proving anything to you. It's about demonstrating that no matter your titles or your followers, you have no right to belittle anyone. Seraphina hesitated for a fraction of a second, surprise flickering in her eyes at Maya's composed strength. She quickly regained her confidence, curling her lip into a cold smile as she stepped back and taunted over her shoulder. Very well, Maya. Cling to that little ember of pride of yours. In a few minutes, I'll extinguish it in front of everyone here. Maya watched Seraphina retreat, her heart pounding, not with fear, but with a fierce determination rising from within. She knew the coming fight would be her greatest challenge yet, but this time she would not back down. And in that moment, she knew she was ready. The stark white lights bore down on the center of the ring, their cold beams cutting through the thick tension that saturated the arena. As Maya strode forward with unwavering resolve, the din of applause and murmurs swelled into a vibrant, chaotic symphony. Her gaze remained fixed straight ahead, undistracted by the surrounding noise, even though her heart pounded louder than ever. Opposite her, Seraphina Thorne climbed into the ring with absolute self-assurance, her face as cold and haughty as ever. She swept her eyes across the audience and flashed a disdainful, provocative grin as if to emphasize her superiority over Maya. Cheers from Seraphina's fans thundered through the venue, bolstering her nearly unshakable confidence. The referee stepped in and quickly signaled the fighters to their corners. Maya tightened her gloves and drew a deep, steadying breath. She knew everything would change in this moment. This was more than a fight. It was a battle to defend her dignity and prove to everyone watching that a person's worth can never be measured by their background, skin color, or circumstances. The bell rang, signaling the official start. Instantly, Seraphina launched a fierce, unrelenting assault, giving Maya no time to settle. Powerful, precise punches rained down as if Seraphina wanted to end the match as quickly as possible to reaffirm her dominance. Reporters and spectators alike leaned in, convinced they were about to witness another effortless victory for the world champion. But they were mistaken. From the very first seconds, Maya displayed a defensive mastery that stunned everyone present. She moved with effortless grace, evading Seraphina's blows with uncanny ease. Every step Maya took on the canvas was light, yet assured. Each bob and weave showed she wasn't merely dodging. She was controlling the pace of the fight. Seraphina's brow furrowed in frustration as she realized her flurry of attacks wasn't landing as planned. For the first time, she sensed that Maya was no amateur. She was a genuine warrior with extraordinary defensive skill. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the atmosphere shifted. Cameras zoomed in to capture Maya's every move, moves they had previously dismissed as feeble. Now they understood this was no ordinary bout. It was a dramatic spectacle, and the small woman in the ring was rewriting expectations. Still, Seraphina refused to back down. She clenched her fists, rage igniting her eyes. With a low, furious growl, she unleashed an even more brutal series of strikes, determined to corner Maya and force a mistake. Yet Maya remained unshaken. She read every movement of Seraphina's body, every weighted breath. In that moment, she understood she was fighting not just a powerful opponent, but someone using aggression to mask her own fear. At ringside, Coach Marcus and Uncle Ben watched breathlessly. Coach Marcus's face lit with pride and astonishment, while Uncle Ben's gaze held a mix of awe and concern. He knew Maya's strength, but he also knew the deep wounds from her past that no one but she truly understood. Back in the ring, Maya continued slipping and sliding out of Seraphina's fiercest blows, her defense so smooth and effective that Seraphina's control crumbled further. In a brief exchange of glances, Serafina saw something in Maya's calm, unyielding eyes that made her hesitate. A serenity, a rock-solid resolve, and above all, an inner confidence, a mental strength Serafina had never encountered. Serafina paused, drawing in a sharp breath, her expression stripped of arrogance and filled with pure fury. "I know what you're thinking, Maya, but don't delude yourself," she shouted to provoke Maya. "Those lucky dodges won't win you this fight. I'll make sure you're flat on your back at my feet." Maya didn't reply. She simply offered a small, confident smile and held her perfect defensive stance. She knew Serafina was trying to get inside her head, but Maya had been ready for this long before she ever stepped into the ring today. The crowd fell silent, every eye locked on the unfolding drama with unprecedented intensity. They understood this was only the beginning, and the surprises yet to come would astonish them even more. And Maya knew it too. This fight wasn't over. It had only just begun. The air in the arena grew thick with tension, ratcheting higher with every passing moment. Maya held her defensive posture, her eyes razor-sharp and wholly focused on even the slightest movement from Serafina. Across the ring, Serafina Thorne's usual confidence began to fracture, replaced by an unfamiliar look of anxiety and confusion. Beads of sweat dripped from Serafina's brow, splattering on the canvas as her physical and mental strength faltered. She shook her head violently, trying to dispel the helplessness, then channeled every ounce of energy into a crushing punch aimed straight at Maya. But this time, Maya did more than simply evade. She'd been waiting for precisely this opening. In the fraction of a second after Serafina's blow sailed wide, Maya unleashed a lightning-fast counterpunch. The audience barely had time to blink before her fist connected with Serafina's jaw, snapping her head back and sending her off balance. Astonishment rippled through the crowd. Photographers scrambled. Cameras whirred to capture this unprecedented moment. Ringside Coach Marcus's face flooded with surprise and pride, while Uncle Ben smiled softly, eyes alight with both joy and concern for his niece. Serafina staggered to her feet, panic flashing in her eyes. She'd never encountered a situation like this. Her long-dismissed opponent had rocked her world and ignited genuine fear. Fueled by desperation and refusal to accept defeat, Serafina lashed out with a wild, brutal flurry of punches. Hundreds of invisible punches thrown in frantic hopes of forcing Maya into a mistake. But the harder she swung, the more she lost control, blundering deeper into the trap Maya had set. Unmoved, Maya wove through the assault with effortless grace. Each dodge was executed with uncanny precision, turning the ring into a stage for her controlled, fluid movements. Serafina's chaos only intensified as her attacks grew more erratic. "This can't be happening." Serafina snarled, teeth bared, breath ragged. She hurled herself forward again, determined to end Maya once and for all. But every punch was clumsy, and Maya slipped each one with ease. In a fleeting exchange of glances, Serafina caught Maya's unflinching calm and felt a deep dread take root. For the first time, she realized she'd lost control. Serafina Thorne, the world champion who used to mock every challenger, now tasted helplessness. "Serafina's losing it," someone shouted from the stands, and the arena buzzed with murmurs. Serafina whirled, scanning the crowd, the phones, the cameras, the faces, all no longer revering her, but watching with a mix of curiosity and disappointment. It was a humbling, frightening new reality. Failure in front of the very audience she once commanded. In a last-ditch effort at mind games, Serafina snapped out a taunt. "Did you think one lucky punch would beat me, Maya? Don't get arrogant. You'll never dismantle the empire I built. You'll always be beneath me." Maya said nothing. She simply stepped forward, eyes as steady and cold as steel. No words were needed. Her stance declared, "I'm not here to prove anything to you. I'm here to prove that no one has the right to demean another." The crowd erupted behind Maya, their cheers of her name drowning out Serafina's dwindling supporters. For the first time in her reign, Serafina stood alone, abandoned by the masses she once dominated. Maya advanced every movement brimming with confidence and resolve. She knew this was her moment to show the world that true strength isn't born from humiliating others, but from preserving one's dignity and courage in the face of the fiercest storms. And she was more than ready to end this fight on her own terms. When the bell rang to start the second round, Maya strode deliberately toward the center of the ring, her eyes blazing with fierce determination. In that moment, the entire arena fell hush, everyone holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Facing her, Serafina Thorne fought to maintain her usual arrogance, but it was plain for all to see the trembling fear lurking behind her eyes. With obvious desperation and rage, Serafina lunged forward, unleashing powerful swings that completely lacked the precision of a world champion. Maya, by contrast, remained utterly composed. She slipped each punch with effortless grace, as though she could read Serafina's every thought and intention before it even materialized. Every pair of eyes in the arena was fixed on Maya, as if they'd all realized that this fight was about more than physical prowess. It was a clash of two souls. Serafina's proud contempt versus Maya's unwavering strength, dignity, and self-respect. Then the decisive moment arrived. Serafina threw a wild, clumsy punch, leaving herself hopelessly exposed. Without hesitation, Maya seized the opening and unleashed a lightning-fast combination, a crisp jab to Serafina's jaw that wobbled her, followed by a powerful cross to the cheek, and finishing with a thunderous uppercut that snapped Serafina's head back and sent her crashing to the canvas, utterly unable to regain control. The arena erupted in stunned amazement and exhilaration. Serafina Thorne, the haughty world champion who'd always boasted that no one could beat her, was knocked out cold. Reporters sprinted forward, cameras flashing to capture this unbelievable scene. Serafina fought to rise, her legs shaking violently, her eyes wide with terror and despair. For the first time in her life, she felt the crushing weight of defeat. Not just physically, but a complete collapse of spirit and pride. The referee approached and counted out the seconds in a clear, unhurried voice. 1, 2, 3. Serafina made a final, futile attempt to stand, but her legs refused to obey. All her strength, her arrogance, her former confidence had dissolved under Maya's relentless will. 7, 8, 9, 10. The referee's decisive declaration sealed it. Maya Jenkins had won by knockout. The crowd leapt to its feet, thunderous applause shaking the arena like a storm. Voices roared, "Maya, Maya!" Not just celebrating her victory, but the triumph of dignity, resilience, and human worth. At ringside, Coach Marcus and Uncle Ben rushed to Maya's side, their faces shining with pride and emotion. Uncle Ben enveloped his niece in a trembling hug. "I knew you could do it, Maya. I'm prouder of you than ever," he whispered. Coach Marcus placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, admiration and joy in his eyes. "Today, you didn't just win a fight, Maya. You showed everyone what true strength really is. Strength born of self-respect and honor." Meanwhile, in the corner of the ring, Serafina Thorne sat crumpled on the floor, head bowed in shame and disbelief. Her fans were eerily silent, their faces etched with disappointment. Serafina looked up at Maya, and for the first time truly recognized her own weakness and insignificance in the face of Maya's inner power. Serafina had believed that strength came from titles, fame, and the ability to humiliate others to cement her own standing. But now she understood how utterly wrong she'd been. True strength wasn't hers at all. It belonged to Maya, who'd carried it in her heart and soul all along. Self-respect, courage, and dignity. Slowly, Serafina rose, legs still trembling, and looked toward Maya with a reluctant, newfound respect. Maya returned her gaze calmly, without a trace of arrogance, only the quiet warmth of humanity. In that moment, the spectators, and all who bore witness, realized they had seen history. Not simply a famous champion defeated by an underdog, but the victory of the highest, noblest values of the human spirit. Maya Jenkins, once overlooked, had become the new icon, the new hero. And Serafina Thorne, once at the pinnacle, had finally learned, in the most humbling way possible, that she had been truly vanquished, not just in the ring, but in spirit and honor as well. The match was over, but its echo would resound forever, a reminder that in life, respect, courage, and dignity matter far more than any title or status one can claim. As the applause for Maya still echoed throughout the arena, Serafina Thorne slipped quietly off the ring, trying to conceal her ashen face and the desperation in her eyes. She had once believed herself invincible, trusting in the power that fame granted her. But now Serafina felt everything she had built vanish before her like a sandcastle swept away by a single wave. Just minutes after the match ended, news of Maya's decisive victory spread at lightning speed across social media and news outlets. Clips of Maya's perfect knockout were shared millions of times, accompanied by praise for the courage and dignity of the woman who had once been so dismissed. At the same time, Serafina's earlier racist, arrogant remarks were unearthed and widely circulated, igniting an unprecedented wave of condemnation. That very night, when Serafina returned to her lavish apartment, her phone buzzed relentlessly with calls from sponsors. One by one, they delivered the worst possible news. Each company was terminating its endorsement contract immediately. Apex, Athletic, Dynamo Gear, and several other major brands publicly announced they could no longer be associated with someone who had openly displayed racial prejudice and contempt for others. In less than 24 hours, Serafina watched her pride and her empire crumble like a nightmare. Every news headline, every viral video, every social media comment branded her as a symbol of arrogance, bigotry, and disgrace. She sat alone in her darkened room, the glow from her computer screen illuminating her pale face, each scathing online post feeling like a blade twisting in her deeply wounded pride. Desperate to salvage her reputation, Serafina posted an apology video on her personal page. In it, she dressed simply, tears glistening in her eyes, her voice trembling as she sincerely apologized for her thoughtless comments and past arrogance. She said the bout with Maya had opened her eyes to her mistakes, and she asked forgiveness for Maya and anyone hurt by her words. But the moment the video went live, it was met with fierce backlash. Instead of sympathy or forgiveness, Serafina received cold mockery and accusations of insincerity. Thousands of skeptical comments poured in within minutes. "Serafina, it's too late. You only regret this because you lost everything, not because you truly understand your wrongdoing. We don't believe your tears anymore. What you did to Maya showed your real face." Major news outlets covered her belated apology, but all framed it with sharp criticism, arguing she was merely trying to salvage an image now in ruins. Serafina was no longer seen as a figure of strength and confidence. She had become an emblem of bigotry and shameful failure. Things worsened as her longtime fans turned away. Fan pages and support groups that once cheered for Serafina announced they could no longer back an idol who had betrayed ethics and respect. Stores carrying Serafina's branded merchandise were pressured to pull products from their shelves, and billboards and ads featuring her in the city and in shopping centers were swiftly taken down. With each passing day, Serafina felt the isolation and rejection of a society she once ruled. Wherever she went, she met sneers and whispered judgments. No one remembered her as the proud world champion. They remembered her only as a bitter lesson in the cost of contempt and racial prejudice. Even when Serafina sought refuge in out-of-the-way coffee shops, she still felt the chill of exclusion. Once sitting in a quiet corner of a small cafe, she overheard the next table. She used to be the champion, but look at her now. Lost it all because of arrogance and racism. A stark lesson for everyone. Serafina gripped her coffee cup as tears filled her eyes. She understood she could never rewind time to undo her mistakes. Serafina Thorne, who once took pride in her unassailable dominance, had become the living example of the price paid for arrogance and judging others by prejudice. Silently, she left the cafe and walked through crowded streets utterly alone, fully aware that everything had slipped away. In her attempt to prove her superiority, she had lost herself and everything truly precious: respect, trust, and dignity. On her way home, Serafina passed a giant outdoor screen replaying Maya's knockout in glorious slow motion. In that moment, she confronted a painful but necessary truth. Real victory and honor belong only to those who cherish their self-respect and dignity, qualities she had completely forgotten in her pursuit of fame. Serafina Thorne had paid the steepest price for her greatest mistake, and it was a lesson she would never forget. While Serafina Thorne faced the complete collapse of her reputation, Maya Jenkins' life entered a brilliant, more meaningful new chapter. That historic match was not only Maya's personal triumph, but also a defining moment in her career, transforming her from an unknown into a global symbol of courage, dignity, and resilience. Within just weeks of her stunning victory over Serafina, Maya received countless offers from the world's leading sports brands. Apex, Athletic, Dynamo Gear, and numerous other prestigious companies all wanted her as their ambassador, not only for her extraordinary talent, but for the inspiring story she embodied. Before long, Maya signed multi-million-dollar contracts, becoming the most prominent female professional boxer on the planet. Yet Maya understood that fame was not her ultimate goal. She remembered why she had stepped into the ring that day, not to prove she was superior to Serafina, but to send a clear message. No one has the right to look down on another because of their skin color, background, or circumstances. With that purpose in mind, Maya resolved to use her new platform to help young people facing the same challenges she once did. With the support of Coach Marcus Uncle Ben and several respected figures in sports and society, Maya created the Spark Foundation, named after her childhood nickname. The foundation quickly became a bridge of opportunity for youth in underprivileged communities, offering free athletic training and educational scholarships to help them build brighter futures. Every day, Maya visited struggling neighborhoods to meet, talk with, and encourage young people. She shared her life story with honesty and humility, showing them that no obstacle is insurmountable when you have courage and determination. Maya became the ideal role model they yearned for, not just because of her boxing prowess, but because of her unwavering dignity and indomitable spirit. Although Maya's name grew ever more renowned, she never used her fame to belittle anyone, even Serafina Thorne. She understood better than anyone what it felt like to be demeaned and hurt, and she refused to let others endure the same wounds. In every interview and public appearance, Maya delivered a powerful message of compassion and the importance of rebuilding one's life. "I never wanted my victory to be someone else's downfall. Serafina made a terrible mistake, but I hope she can find a way to rise from it and rebuild her life for the better. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we learn and how we change." Her sincere, empathetic words only deepened the admiration people felt for her whenever she appeared. The applause was not just for a skilled boxing champion, but for a woman with a generous heart who used her influence to spread profound humanitarian values. Of course, Maya still faced tough questions from the media about Serafina. During one nationally televised interview, a reporter asked, "Maya, what do you really feel about Serafina Thorne now, after everything she said and suffered?" Maya paused thoughtfully, her eyes reflecting her contemplation. When she spoke, her voice was steady and clear. "I don't harbor hatred for Serafina. Yes, she wounded me with her thoughtless words, but I don't believe that revenge or animosity will improve my life. I genuinely hope Serafina finds real peace and happiness that she learns from her mistakes. If we never grant people the chance to change, how can we hope for a better society?" Her answer drew thunderous applause from the studio audience and ignited a wave of praise on social media for her grace and compassion. People no longer saw her simply as a female boxer, but as a powerful emblem of forgiveness, reconciliation, and hope. Back at the Spark Foundation, more and more young people came each day. Maya's sponsored gyms filled with laughter and renewed optimism. Often she wasn't there to coach, but simply to listen to their stories, share her experience, and encourage them to believe in themselves. One weekend afternoon, as she watched children eagerly training, Maya remembered her own difficult past. She smiled, grateful for the trials that had made her stronger and taught her life's true value. She realized that titles, endorsements, and fame were fleeting. The most important gift she gained from that fateful match with Serafina was not glory or wealth, but the opportunity to devote her life to helping others, to spread self-respect, forgiveness, and love to everyone she could reach. And Maya knew she had found her true path, a path of service, compassion, and hope, something no one, not even Serafina, could ever take away from her. While Maya strengthened her reputation each day as a symbol of compassion and inner strength on the other side, Serafina Thorne sank ever deeper into loneliness and regret. As time passed, Serafina no longer recognized the glamorous world she once belonged to. The doors that once swung wide open for her had firmly shut, leaving her alone with a harsh truth. People turned away, not because she failed, but because of the grave mistakes she had made in the past. Serafina had believed that arrogance, fame, and power would forever protect her, but reality proved to be ruthlessly unforgiving. She lost everything. Not only her endorsement deals, her prestige, and her devoted fans, but even her faith in herself. During those solitary days, Serafina began to look inward, and for the first time in her life, she asked herself, "What did I do wrong?" One morning, Serafina decided to step out from the shell of silence she had built around herself. She accepted an invitation to appear on a special interview show for a major television network, a program renowned for its candid, insightful explorations of people who have committed serious mistakes. Serafina knew this was her chance to speak the truth, to publicly acknowledge her faults, and to offer a sincere apology to Maya and everyone she had hurt. On the day of filming, Serafina sat under the bright studio lights across from the show's famously calm and insightful host, Evelyn Brooks. A hush fell over the set as Evelyn began the interview. Serafina, you were once a world champion boxer, but now everything has changed. Looking back on what happened, what do you consider your greatest mistake? Serafina took a deep breath, her eyes shining with a sincerity that had never been there before. She replied in a soft but clear voice, "My greatest mistake wasn't losing the fight to Maya. My greatest mistake was the arrogance and deep-seated prejudice I carried for so many years. I used hurtful words and racist attitudes to wound Maya and many others. I believed a person's worth depended on their fame, their wealth, and the color of their skin." The studio fell silent. Evelyn gently continued, "What made you realize that mistake, Serafina?" Serafina's voice trembled as she spoke, each word laden with genuine remorse. "The fight with Maya didn't just cost me my fame and status, it forced me to confront myself in a serious way for the first time. I watched the fight footage hundreds of times, not to study my technique, but to really look into Maya's eyes at that moment. Eyes full of dignity and self-respect, without a trace of hatred. In that moment, I understood that Maya was far stronger than I was. True strength isn't in fame or money. It's in dignity, compassion, and the resilience to overcome adversity." Evelyn nodded and asked directly, "Are you saying these things because you want society to forgive you and welcome you back?" Serafina shook her head gently, tears welling in her eyes. "I know society has turned its back on me, and I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness. I just want to speak the truth from my heart, because I understand I must face the consequences of my actions. I want to apologize sincerely to Maya and to everyone who was hurt by my thoughtless words. I have lost everything, but I believe that was necessary for me to recognize my true worth." The interview went viral, racking up millions of views and comments. Some viewers believed in Serafina's remorse, but most remained skeptical, some even mocking her, accusing her of shedding crocodile tears to salvage her reputation. Serafina read every bitter comment, but this time she felt no anger or resentment. Instead, she accepted their judgment as part of her journey toward atonement. She understood that regaining trust and respect would not be easy, but at least now she appreciated the value of genuine humility. Over time, Serafina faded from the spotlight and retreated to a quieter, simpler life. She began volunteering at community centers, places she had never considered before. Each day, she tried to give back in small ways, hoping to make amends for her past mistakes. One afternoon, as Serafina was tidying up at a small community center, she overheard two elderly women talking. "She seems genuinely committed to changing, but I wonder if society will ever give her a chance. I don't know. But maybe the fact that she recognizes her mistakes and is striving to improve is already the best outcome." Hearing this, Serafina felt a small lift in her heart. She knew the road ahead would be long, but at least she had begun to walk in the right direction. She realized that acknowledging her mistakes, confronting them, and trying to make them right was her greatest victory, not one of fame or fortune, but one of growth, humility, and above all, a second chance at life. As time passed and Serafina began to grasp the true value of humility and heartfelt atonement, Maya Jenkins on the other side kept solidifying her standing as a powerful emblem of self-respect, dignity, and perseverance. After that fateful bout with Serafina, Maya didn't rest on her personal fame or success. She understood that now, more than ever, she needed to use her platform to spark positive change for her community, especially for those who had faced hardships like she once did. Maya's Spark Foundation only grew stronger. What began as a small initiative has now expanded across the United States, establishing free sports and martial arts facilities in the country's most underserved neighborhoods. These centers aren't just places for young people to learn fighting techniques or get in shape. They're spaces where they learn to overcome adversity, maintain their self-respect, and build confidence in themselves. Whenever she appeared in public, Maya made one point crystal clear. "I don't see my success as personal revenge against anyone, not even Serafina Thorne. What I truly want is to create opportunities, hope, and belief for anyone who has ever felt looked down on or insulted by society. Real success isn't about defeating other people. It's about overcoming the stereotypes and limits that others impose on us." Those messages spread far and wide, earning the attention and support of millions around the globe. Maya traveled regularly to schools, community centers, and major events to share her story, inspiring young people to understand that no barrier can hold them back if they hold fast to their self-respect and belief. One of her most memorable days came when she was invited to speak at the Global Leadership Summit before thousands of delegates from countries all over the world. Standing at the podium, her voice strong and impassioned, she said, "We can't control how others see or judge us, but we can absolutely control how we respond. I was once a girl from a tough neighborhood in South Side Atlanta, looked down on for my background and my skin color, but I've learned that self-respect is the greatest power a person can possess, and no one can take that from us unless we give it up ourselves." That speech was broadcast across global media channels, turning Maya into a worldwide icon of triumph over adversity and prejudice. As Maya's legacy continued to shine across town in a modest apartment, Serafina Thorne sat alone, eyes fixed on her TV screen. She watched Maya in another world title fight, still as strong, agile, and determined as ever. Each punch Maya delivered carried power, but also a deep sense of dignity and respect for her opponent. Serafina felt something strange stir in her heart, genuine admiration free of jealousy or resentment. She realized that Maya fought not just for herself, but on behalf of millions who had been belittled and hurt by people like Serafina in the past. When the match ended, Maya raised her hand in victory, her face glowing with joy and gratitude. Stepping to the microphone, she smiled sincerely and humbly. "I want to thank everyone who believed in me, and even those who doubted me, because each of you helped me understand who I am and what I must do. I will continue fighting not only in the ring, but in life, to inspire others to believe they can achieve the extraordinary as long as they believe in themselves." Serafina sat motionless before the screen, tears streaming down her cheeks. For the first time in her life, she felt deeply that Maya had taught her an invaluable lesson. A lesson about self-respect, dignity, and true greatness. Serafina now understood that true strength doesn't lie in reigning at the top or winning fights, but in rising again after a fall, acknowledging one's mistakes, and rediscovering one's real worth. The TV's glow faded as the program ended, but in Serafina's mind, Maya's image remained bright, a living symbol of courage and resolve. She now knew her life could never revert to what it was, yet she still had the chance to change to build a better future. In that small apartment, Serafina sat in silence for a long time, but for the first time ever, she felt at peace. She realized that while life could take away everything she once held dear, the profound lesson Maya taught her would endure forever. A lesson on genuine greatness, the dignity of the human spirit, and the power of transformation. That night, Serafina closed her eyes in serenity, knowing that although she had made many mistakes, she had finally learned to accept them, to make amends, and to grow from them. And all of that was thanks to Maya Jenkins, the unassuming woman she once looked down upon, who ultimately taught her the greatest lesson of her life. Thus, Maya Jenkins' story is not just one of a woman rising from adversity. It stands as the clearest testament that self-respect and dignity always outshine prejudice, discrimination, or scorn. Sometimes our greatest challenges become the very opportunities through which we discover our true value. What about you? Have you ever faced a moment when your self-respect was put to the test? How did you overcome it? Share your story in the comments below. If Maya's journey inspired you and helped reinforce your belief in yourself, be sure to like, share this video, and subscribe to our channel for more meaningful stories. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.